Hey everyone, welcome back to Path of Exile, and in today's content we are doing an Infernal Blow Chieftain using Hollow Palm technique. Now, I know that not everybody knows what Hollow Palm technique is, and it's a keystone that comes from One with Nothing, which is a small cluster jewel. Hollow Palm technique makes it so that while you are wearing no weapons or gloves, you are unencumbered, and while unencumbered you count as dual wielding, you've got more attack speed and you get flat added physical attack damage per 10 dexterity. Because of that, our challenge is gonna be building around, getting as much dexterity as possible, hitting a life threshold where you are comfortable with, and capping those resistances, since we don't have access to 3 slots in our gear. It is a little bit difficult, but once you get this rolling, you're gonna realize that Hollow Palm technique is some of the most fun you can have while playing in Path of Exile. And you're gonna see that from the map clear gameplay and also the boss gameplay that I've got at the end of this video. So if you are new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us on the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment help getting the video spread out to the masses. As always, if you want to skip the commentary portion and jump straight into the gameplay, or rather the boss gameplay, you can do so by following the timestamps on the screen, or in the comments below, or in the description below, or in the divisions to the video that YouTube does nowadays. Before we continue with the gear, there are some things I want to point out about this character. First is that we are level 95, and that is because at level 95 we're able to allocate some mana leech over here in the ranger area of the tree. If you are not level 95, you use an open prefix on your jewelry to get negative total mana cost of skills to keep the mana cost cheap and sustainable. Once you get your mana leech, you respec those things into more damage. At the same time, we are building as a chieftain because the chieftain has access to Tassalio cleansing water, and that gives us a lot of fire resistance, and alongside an astral plate and some resistance somewhere else, we're able to cap the fire resistance, and we can use the empty suffixes for more dexterity or chaos res or whatever else you may be missing. Finally, Hollow Palm technique, or rather unarmed, has no crit chance whatsoever. And since we have no crit chance whatsoever, elemental overload, tailwind, critical strikes, crit chance is completely useless. Because of that, you can also ask why not Resolute technique, but since we've got a lot of dexterity, we get a lot of accuracy, and as such, Resolute technique is completely useless as well. With all of that said, let's actually talk about the character by talking about the same body armor I keep using in every single build since the league start. And that is the Astral Plate with 6 white sockets, life, enemy skilled explode, the frenzy charge, chaos res, and increased dexterity. This is an absolute monster of an Astral Plate, and getting something similar is gonna be really expensive. So in your case, I recommend getting the enemy skilled explode and the frenzy charges first, alongside the life and resists, and if possible an empty suffix to craft increased attributes from the crafting bench, which can only be applied on body armors. And by doing that, you're gonna get something similar to mine. Moving on to the first ring, it has flammability, a lot of dexterity, life, and resistances, alongside some damage stuff such as melee damage and bench crafted elemental damage with attack skills. In your case, your priorities are the flammability, the dexterity, the life, and the resistances. Any other damage that you can craft into this is a bonus, as we are trying to scale off that dexterity first, and the flammability is nice since we're also going to be scaling some flammability curse effect in the tree. So yeah, anything else besides those modifiers is a bonus. The other ring, on the other hand, is an onset ring which houses Flame Dash, which is our movement skill, and this ring has a lot of dexterity, life, resistances, phase damage attacks, and negative total mana cost of skills, which I crafted. The negative mana cost of skills isn't that mandatory once you get your mana leech, and I've been meaning to remove that, but I keep forgetting. And the phase damage attacks is also not mandatory, but I've got it because I kept rolling attack modifiers hoping for melee damage or elemental damage with attack skills, and I didn't get it, but I got the phase damage attacks, which is useful at the end of the day. The amulet is an amulet with as much dexterity as humanly possible, life, a resist, and Fizz's extra fire because it is Warlord influenced. In your case, I recommend doing something similar, but again aiming first for life, dexterity and a resist or two, and then trying to get damage modifiers. In my case, I slammed a Warlord Exile and removed and added Fizz modifiers until I got the fire damage that you see on screen right now. I crafted the elemental damage with attack skills, and finally we anoint coordination, which gives us attack speed and dexterity and intelligence. The helmet is a helmet with Infernal below Fist damage gained as extra fire damage as an enchantment, alongside life, a resist, dexterity, and I crafted more dexterity and intelligence since I had the rest of the gear pretty much done. And in your case, I recommend getting something similar. If you are ballsy, try to remove the defenses in this slot and slam a Warlord Exile for increased elemental damage and boost your DPS output even more. For the belt, we're using a Stygian Vice with Hunter Influence, which has increased attributes, increased life, and resistances, and finally I bench crafted the elemental damage with attack skills. In your case, or at least in my recommendation, I'd say you craft your own. I crafted mine by getting the increased attributes and the resistances first, and then using the garden, I kept all suffixes, rerolled all prefixes, which is a wild tier 2 craft. I don't recall which seed, and through that I was able to hit the flat life and then the increased maximum life using the garden itself, you know, the augment life modifiers, and finally the benchcraft. Something like this is gonna be a bit expensive, which is why I recommend crafting it yourself. The jewel on the belt has dexterity, life and some defenses, alongside some life recovery per second from life leech, which also comes from the garden by spamming implicit modifiers on cluster jewels or abyss jewels. Finally, for gear, the boots have life, movement speed, Fizz's extra fire, resistances and dexterity, and in my case I crafted these guys, as unreal as it may sound, and that is because I found a pair for 20 cows with the movement speed, the Fizz damage as extra fire and the dexterity, and everything else was not here. I was able to craft it using the garden, and I absolutely recommend getting something similar to this by crafting or trading, because that is gonna give you a lot of damage, and damage is always good. So finally, for flasks, we're using a Wise Oak, a Cinder Swallow Urn, and a Lion's Roar. Moving on to the skill tree portion of this video, the first and most important thing I want to point out is the Lethal Pride. We are using a Lethal Pride with Warriors under Akoya so that we can change Iron Grip for Chain Breaker, which is gonna generate rage per second, and we are only gonna use that rage for single target by enabling Berserk. That is the only use for that rage. And I want to point out the fact that the roll on the Lethal Pride matters, because you can get some stuff such as increased Fizz damage or increased armor or fire res or life leech or whatever else, so pay attention to whatever stuff your Akoya Lethal Pride is giving you. So yeah, moving on to the actual tree. I've got a fluid motion, which is transforming a strength in passives in radius to dexterity, and it's over here allocated near the start of the Marauder, so that we turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strength nodes into dexterity, and that is giving us a lot of dexterity, as well as being corrupted with fire penetration. We are getting some Warcry nodes because we are using Call to Arms and an Enduring Cry, which is getting casted free of charge without, well, not free of charge, but rather without having to move around, thanks to Call to Arms. And we also get some damage and life recovery thanks to Escalation. We also allocate Iron Reflexes, and for the cluster jewels and the jewels in general, one of the cluster jewels has Martial Prowess and Insatiable Killer. Even though the Frenzy Charge on kill is irrelevant, we mostly want it for the attack speed while dual wielding and increased damage while dual wielding, and Martial Prowess for accuracy, attack speed, attack damage, and that's about it really. We're gonna use 5 points in this guy over here, because that's really as much as we need, so that we can allocate 2 jewels and also get some useful stuff in the notables. Alongside that, we want attributes or resistances as our empty suffix in here. The other cluster jewel setup has corrosive elements and Lord of Drought, alongside only allocating 5 passive nodes, and in the single small node we've got some fires and pretty much the fire damage from the large jewel socket or large cluster jewel. We use corrosive elements to apply a negative 10 fire resistance debuff on enemies, that is the fire exposure on this thing, and Lord of Drought is giving us flammability curse effect. This large cluster jewel is gonna house one with nothing for Hollow Palm technique, and also a medium cluster jewel with Lord of Drought and Evil Eye, alongside some Chaos Res and Cold Res that is only available on the single small node on the jewel. Finally, for jewels on the tree, we've got, 3 jewels that are normal, that have attack speed, life, or attack damage, or whatever else. We want as much dexterity and life, and you know, any other damage modifiers you can get. Melee damage, attack speed, global fist damage, damage, if you can get a fire corrupted implicit, fire penetration, that's also great. So yeah. We also use a Watcher's Eye because we're using a low level precision and anger, and this Watcher's Eye is giving us attack speed with precision and fizzes extra fire while affected by anger. Since we're talking about that, let's finally talk about the gem setups, which are a low level precision, Herald of Purity level 21, anger level 21, Berserk, Ancestral Warchief, or rather Baal Ancestral Warchief, Ancestral Protector, linked to Combustion. We also want Enduring Cry over here, and the gem setups on the skill are Infernal Blow, Awakened Elemental Damage with attack skills, Multi-Strike, Fortify, Ruthless, and Awakened Melee Fist damage. We swap Ancestral Call for Ruthless during single target, and we mostly use it even during like tier 16 maps. Ruthless is mostly for boss fights such as Sirus, Katarina, and whatnot. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I know that I kinda screwed up on certain things while I spoke, but you know, not a native English speaker, so that happens from time to time, as mad as it makes me sometimes. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this character. There was some gameplay in between everything I said. Now you're gonna move on to the boss gameplay, and this character is still pretty strong at that. So with that being said, I wanna thank you for this video. I hope you enjoyed it despite the stuff I screwed up while explaining, and I hope to see you in the next one actually. So take care, have a nice week, or rather a start of your weekend, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace out, Holmes.
A real challenge. You've finally caught my attention. Die. Die.
Why run? What's the point? Rain of stars!
The others found strength in their projections.
I cannot do this
They
yet.
became reliant on them. I am not so foolish. Die.
Beyond, there is only horror.
Be silent. Die.
Watch beauty crumble. Creation itself.
Is life really interesting enough to warrant all this pain? Die.
Watch guilty crumble! Creation itself! Glorious
Of
flames!
death, my heart races. I am alive. Meaning
Is an illusion. Everlasting fire! Beyond, there's only horror. Silent.
feel the thrill of
The void. Everlasting fire.
Behold the face of your unmaking!
Father, it's me. Let me help you.
The horror must be stopped. Obstacles destroyed! Gaze into the abyss.
Stay close.
Insubstantial. These memories are mine. I cannot lose them.
They lied to you, Father. I'm your true memory.
To save the future, the past must be sacrificed. Gaze into the abyss.
They're coming through. To me, Exile, quickly.
I cannot do this yet.
Embraced by misery.